Hey everyone, I am Melody Ann, producer and host of Author Nation. And did you know we now have an Author Nation membership as well? So if that's something you are interested in, I have just thrown it up there on the ticker. You can grab the URL there, or you can find it in the description. So today we are going to be talking about sex and love addiction. And I just want to make a little note before we start that if you have related trauma, sometimes listening to conversations about this can be triggering. And I just want you to take care of yourself. So I just wanted to throw that out there just in case. Now, my guest has over a decade of recovery as a sex and love addict. Brianne is the host of the popular mental health podcast, Secret Life. The podcast launched in August 2020 and features inspiring true confessions from an eclectic group of guests who unpack a plethora of taboo topics. Brianne's latest venture in the Secret Life brand is her debut novel, Secret Life of a Hollywood Sex and Love Addict. And that launched in February 2021 and instantly hit Amazon's bestseller list. Let's welcome Brianne. Hey.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. I love your hat. Where'd you get it?
Oh my God.
Tell us the story.
I used to work at a hat store when I first moved to LA. So I have all these hats. I didn't move to Hollywood 20 years ago and was in the family or had a bunch of money. So I had to work a job and it was at a hat store. So I love hats.
Yeah, no, I love it. That's a great hat. I love it. And
it's so old.
Oh, is it? Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Look, you take good care of your hats, let me say.
Thank you.
So give us some context. Tell us a little bit about your career so we have a little bit of context as we go into the conversation.
Yeah, thank you for asking that. I've been a working actress for almost 25 years now. I mean, I started a long time ago. Like I said, I didn't grow up in a family of Hollywood. I was in Atlanta, Georgia before Hollywood became in Atlanta, Georgia. So my first movie was Remember the Titans. I had a couple lines. I was the cheerleader I didn't even have a name. I was like cheerleader number 1 on the Rival.
Yeah.
And then I got cut. The movie cut out. And so that was my first, like, in Hollywood, the getting the job, the high from getting the job, being on set for a month and a half working, and then going into the theater with your friends and family, watching the movie, and you're completely cut out. So I knew I loved it then after that experience. So I, saved enough money for a couple of years, then moved to Hollywood. And I've been a working actress. I make a living of it. I've been on 6 on History for 2 years, Lucifer recently, Casual, Jarhead, True Blood. Pretty much you've seen me everywhere, but you don't know who I am. So I'm Yes. So that's the gist.
And honestly, I love actors that, it's your craft and you're everywhere, but you're not somebody who were like, you look the same all the time.
No,
right?
I never look the same. People, they always look at me and they're like, I know you. And I'm like, but every character, I don't look like me. Sometimes I don't sound like me. When I watch myself on film, I don't see myself at all.
Yes. Yeah. No, I think that's fabulous. All right. So let's talk a little bit about sex and love addiction. So when did you figure out that this was a problem for you?
12 years ago. 12 years ago is when I hit my bottom. I hit that moment where I call it the dark night of the soul, when you see yourself again about to get yourself in a situation where you're looking for validation and intention outside of your relationship or a toxic person. And I had that moment where I was like, oh my God, it's not that every person that I've ever dated didn't give me what I wanted. The common denominator is me. I didn't know how to have healthy relationships, and I would blow up my relationship. I would, do things to make a fight happen. So then I had an excuse to leave the relationship. And I just, sat in front of a therapist, and I talk about this in chapter 3 in my book, having the therapist go, oh, I know what your problem is. You're a sex and love addict.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? I've never had a one night stand. I haven't had many sexual partners. What are you talking about? And it was that whole opening that she made me realize that I didn't have the healthy tools to have a relationship. I was always looking outside of myself to find that perfect person, that soulmate to complete me, that Hollywood tells you, books, tell you that there's this person that's going to give you your self-worth. And it's like, it's such a lie. And inside, I had so much trauma, lack of self-love, fear someone is going to hurt me. So fear of abandonment, fear of intimacy. It was too intense for me. So that was my journey.
I'm just listening to you say, I had a fear of abandonment and I had a fear of intimacy.
Yep.
What? Right? Like, don't get too close. Don't go away. Don't get too close. Don't go away. That must have been very confusing for everyone involved, right?
Well, yeah, it's that love avoidant, love addict. It's the come, I need you, fix me. And then as soon as it's too close, it's like, never mind, go away. It's too much. And if you look at society, our society amplifies that. It says, run after that unavailable person, songs, that unrequited love. I mean, I talk about in the book, my favorite movie growing up was Romeo and Juliet. Like, if you weren't going to drink some poison or stab yourself over me, then it didn't mean true love. Like, let's get into the drama. And I think we as a society are addicted to drama and addicted to that chase, that push pull. So I wanted to come out and talk about it.
I love what you just said. That's so true. We are so addicted to drama and we don't leave it on the TV screen. We bring it out with us into our lives. So I'm so glad you wrote the book. When did you decide? Yes, I'm writing this book. That's what I'm doing.
Well, it feels like there still was never a decision. It kind of was like, it was bigger than me. So that's how I like to say it. It was bigger than me. I never wanted to write a book. I never wanted to break my anonymity. Sex and love addiction, there's so much shame and stigma, especially for women, that just people in my life knew about it. I didn't go on set and say, hey, I'm a sex and love addict who wants to go to a meeting, so, so when I decided to write the book, what was going on is I was pitching a show around town about female sex and love addicts because all these younger generation were coming in struggling with intimacy, their sexuality, porn addiction, relationships connecting. So I said, my friend Jana Kramer and I, who she was going through her own journey, we started pitching a show about female sex and love addicts. And the narrative kept changing. And my husband sat me down and he was like, hey, there's this writing course for like 90-day writing course. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, I think you should take it. And I was like, leave me alone. I'm shooting Lucifer. I'm pitching a show. Leave me alone. And finally he convinced me. And it wrote itself, honestly, in 45 days. The first draft was like 45 days.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. So you weren't going to write a book. So were you doing a lot of writing before that? Like, do you come from writing, or was it's like, I'm not really a writer and now I'm going to write a book?
Yes, that was it. I'm not a writer. I have ADHD. I'm dyslexic. I did not do well in English. If you read my book, it's not written like a typical book. It's Aroma Clef fiction. It's wrote kind of memoir, self-help, chick lit style. And I had no experience. I mean, my sister is a writer. She writes for magazines and been writing, but I am not a writer. So this was all new for me.
Oh, that's amazing. I want to talk about the book, but I want to actually read a little bit of a review first, just before we get into it. So here it says, actress Brianne Davis takes us behind the glitz and the glamour for a brutally candid, no holds barred look at Tinseltown's forever favorite addiction, sex. How does a pretty Southern girl gone Hollywood beat her demon of choice? You'll cry and laugh as you join her harrowing and hilarious ride to sex addiction sobriety. And that was written by Spencer Beck. He's the former editor-in-chief of LA Confidential, the editor-in-chief Los Angeles, and contributing editor at Vanity Fair. So he does a lot of writing, right? Yeah, and that's what he said about your book. And I love that. So I wanted to throw that out there so people get some context of what's in the book. So now we've heard from Spencer Beck. You tell us about your memoir. What's your take on your memoir?
Yeah, so it was a memoir, but it's a fiction memoir. So it's like I wrote it, my story, and
Yeah.
then during the rewrites and the edit, it was just like all these other stories were coming into my imagination. You know, being an actor, I think writing it like a television show or a movie, putting in scenes where the character goes into fantasy and that's in script form, like an actress, you
Mm.
know, putting in the self help aspect, the 10 rules that can help you get out of your addiction to a person, addiction to a sexual act, and that can help you live a healthy life. And when I was writing it, I put myself in there, but I put a bunch of other people I know after 12 years of recovery in the book. So it's not my story. It's like everybody's story. So I named the character. I was writing and I was like, who is this woman I'm writing about? Like, who is this person? And I was listening to Pandora and the song Roxanne from Police came on. And
Yes.
it was like, aha, Rox. And I even write this in the preface. I write about it and I can read it. We didn't plan this, but there's an important moment where I'm talking about, you know, my intention for this was to be a memoir, but as you can imagine, I'd have to reveal other people's secrets as well. So what follows is not just my journey, but a piece of stories I've heard along the way. And of course, my wild imagination. I mean, I'm also addicted to romance novels. A quick note about my main character's name. Even though I'll be sharing many of my dark secrets with you, I'm also using a dash of creative license when it comes to the characters and stories. So, with that in mind, I want to find a name that fits best this dark heroine of mine. When Roxanne, that classic Police song, popped on the radio, and it was a gift from the god, I think it's the perfect pseudonym for me slash her slash them. Now, I can't afford the lyrics in this book, but basically, they're urging Roxanne to realize that she doesn't have to be a prostitute. She doesn't have to do things like wear a slutty dress or sell herself. Ideal lyrics describes my caliber of disconnection with my addictive behavior. Technically, I have never been paid for sex, but if you consider dinner, flowers, gifts, phone bills, or rent payment as a payment, then guilty as charged. So bingo, Roxanne, it is. So
Yeah.
hang on. This addiction is one gnarly son of a bitch. So
Love it. Love it. No, thank you for reading that. That's fabulous. And so you didn't write a memoir because memoirs have to be true, but
Mhm.
you wrote something that was based on truth. So we call that autofiction, right?
Mhm.
So it's a fictionalized story about my life, right? And I think there's some really good reasons to write like that. And you alluded to one of them in what you just read, right? Giving away your secrets and other people's secrets. So let's start with, you know, if you've had led a challenging life and you want to write a memoir and you don't really want to give away your secrets, where do you draw the line? What do you do about it? How did you go about that?
Well, that's the beauty of making it a Roma clef fiction is that
Mm.
I always say you'll never know which secrets are mine and which are other people. And it really allowed me to put it all out there in a
Mhm.
safe place and also protect other people in my life. So every name is changed, location is changed. You'll never know who I'm talking about, but
Yeah.
it gave the truth of this situation, the brutality of it, the rawness of it,
Yeah.
getting inside an addict's voice and going on that journey of recovery in the first year of
Mm.
Roxanne's recovery. So it just
Yeah.
allowed all doors to be open and just say, here it all is, judge what you want. You don't know what's
Yeah.
mine or what's somebody else's.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when you were writing about other people, do they know they're in the story?
Some of them do.
Okay. Yeah. So some of them do. Fair. So some people you approach them and kind of talked about the book and listened to what, their thoughts around it, and or did you just kind of say, "Hey, you're in the book." How did that work? Did the people who do know?
The people that do know knew
Yeah.
after the book was written. So
Okay.
I didn't ask any permission, and that's the
Okay.
beauty. I didn't have to ask
No.
permission.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I felt the whole point of the book is not, a full story of a situation. It's getting in the mind of an addict and understanding why they do the things they do and how to get out of it in a healthy way. So a lot of it is inner voice, the subtext we say to ourselves. We say one thing and then do something else. So a lot of it I didn't have to discuss with the other characters.
Yeah. And that's one of the best things about autofiction, right? That's you don't have to discuss it because it's not about somebody in particular, right? So you don't have to recall an actual dialogue and stay true to that dialogue. You can make it up as you go. Right. So how did you decide how far to go in the memoir? Like you said, I just, it's all in there. It's all there. So how did you decide to just go all out on that?
I just did. I had no stop. I said, if I'm going to do it, let's really do it. Let's get as dark and intense as we can, but in a way that is entertaining and not depressing. Because a lot of addict books, even fictional ones that I have read, are so dark where you read a page and you just want to throw them against the wall because it's too much. So I made it where it was it's funny, it's entertaining. She makes an ass out of herself. She talks down to herself. She contradicts herself. So it's really on this like journey of, I just put it all out there and said, let the chips fall where they may. Kind of how I am. I speak all over the world for my recovery in sex and love addiction. And when I go speak, I put it all out there. I say, listen, I used to be a horrible person. I used to do horrible things. That doesn't make me a bad person. I just did bad things to survive. So one of the main things I say, which Roxanne says it, I used to be a liar, a cheater, and a thief. I would do anything to get my needs filled. And this is a character you get to go on a journey with and see how she gets out of that addiction.
Yeah. Exactly. So I've done in a different realm, but I've done something similar to you. I did a one woman show on my life, and my family has a big secret, which is now out there. And I know I went through a real emotional journey, like the feeling brave, feeling terrified, feeling, tell me a little bit about that emotional journey when you're writing about your secrets, whether it's autofiction or memoir. Tell me about that personal emotional journey that you went through.
Yeah, I think it's that when the book came out, I didn't actually feel that much. But I have to tell you, during the rewrite, especially chapter 5, 6, and 7, when it's the rules, it's the most brutal aspect of recovery, but it's, 5 is to heal and to move forward. You have to look back at the why. 6, it's time to adult up, admit to your mistakes. 7, compare and despair, stop questioning your worth. When I had to rewrite those 3 chapters, it was like opening again all the wounds. The character defects in there are mine. I say that freely. Like those situations are so brutal to keep going back and like looking at over and over again in the rewrite. So every time I got to those chapters, I just wanted to crawl out of my skin. And then the producers were like, oh, by the way, you have to do the audiobook. And I said, oh, what? What? Like I was in shock, like complete shock. And they said, yeah, like we're doing the audiobook. And I said, can't we like hire an actor? And they all looked like, you're an actor and you're the author and people like to hear the author read it. And I said, oh God. So that 2.5 weeks I recorded the audiobook. I kid you not. It was like next level difficult to read. I mean, it goes deep and it goes raunchy. And, there's some very, inner voice that, it goes really raunchy sometimes because this is that kind of addiction. And to read that in front of a sound person and having to repeat lines because it's like motions coming up. So that was brutal. That was when I was done, I felt this thing lift, like it wasn't mine anymore. Like it's not mine anymore. It's for other people. I don't own it. So
Yeah, no, that's great. And I want to talk a little bit about the self-help part, but just before we jump into that, I always ask this question of authors, and some love it, some hate it. I'm in the bookstore, I pick up your book, I look at the front cover, the back cover, I flip through, and I'm going to buy a book based on a promise I believe the author is making to me. Right.
Okay.
This is why it's why we watch movies, why we read books. What is your promise to the reader in this book?
My promise is that by the end of this book, you will understand whoever in your life keeps going back to toxic relationships or doing toxic you will have empathy and compassion and also see a little bit of yourself in here. That
Right.
anybody can be Roxanne. Anybody can put themselves in a situation that they don't want to be in, but they do it anyways, and then to forgive themselves. That we're all broken in some way, but it's our responsibility to look back at the why and to adult up and to change courses. And in the end, all that matters is that you have self-love. So that's what my book, the journey I promise you to go on.
That's amazing. And yes, absolutely. We're all broken in some way, right? None of us are perfectly formed human beings. So we're all going to see bits and pieces of ourselves in books like yours. I agree. So let's talk a little bit about the self-help. You didn't want it to just be memoir. You wanted somebody to be able to pick up the book and see themselves in the book and then go, okay, not now what, but oh, now I know what I could do next. So can you talk a little bit about implementing self-help in the book?
I think because of my having clients and this recovery, being in recovery for so long, there's one thing to hear stories and to hear somebody else's journey, but there's another thing, there's action that needs to be taken. And I think with my 12-step recovery background of taking 9 years to do my 12 steps, where you really have to dig. This is how my therapist told me, and Dr. Kath is the therapist in the book, and she says you have to dig through your shit to get to your gold. So I just knew that that's how I healed. The healing is doing that inner work to then realize you don't need anything outside of yourself to complete yourself, and no one can take that away. So I really wanted to not put the steps in because 12 steps doesn't work for everybody. And I know that. I've worked with people that won't do 12 steps. So I made these 10 rules that I live by that helped me heal. And anybody can do them. And some of them are similar to a 12 step, like rule number 1 is the key to getting better and becoming healthy is to admitting you have a problem. I mean, before any healing, you have to admit you have a problem, right?
Yes.
So some of them are similar, the character defect, admitting to your mistakes, rule number 5. But most of them I made up myself and did myself. And I just feel like, yes, seeing it, you have a problem, but now what? And this book helps you go, okay, here's the things I can do. Here's the gratitude list I can do. Here's how I look at my character defects in a way where it doesn't torment me anymore. Here's how I can see that they're affecting my every relationship in my life. This book talks about not just love relationships. It talks about friendships. It talks about family members. It talks about the toxicity that we put into relationships and that we hold on to.
I love that. I love that. So if you are interested in the book, secretlifenovel.com, it's on the screen and it will be in the description. And I really wanted to also talk about your book journey. So, did this book provoke any scandal when it was launched?
Oh, yes.
Right. Okay.
I mean,
yeah.
I've gotten so many DMs that how much it helps people, but I get the same amount. I get really gross ones. I get people horribly saying I'm this terrible woman that doesn't have Jesus or is a whore, which is not true in any sense. I just didn't know how to have a healthy relationship. And here is the journey I took to get in a 17-year marriage. Tomorrow, I've been with my partner for 17 years.
Lovely.
And thank you. Yes, it's our anniversary tomorrow.
Lovely.
So
congratulations.
Thank you very much. So that, and then I also had exes reach out to me asking why they weren't in the book. and then some reaching out why they were in the book. I've had a wife of exes reach out to me.
Oh, no.
I've had people, celebrity people that think that they're them, reach out to me. So it's been a plethora of situations. And I've also, had beautiful moments where my mom, if you can imagine your mom reading this book, reached out to me, read it in less than 24 hours, called me crying. And I was like, oh my God, she's going to lose it. And she said, oh my God, for the first time in 10 years, I understand your addiction completely. And it was such a beautiful moment to have that healing moment with her. And then she said this thing that I will never forget. She said, and I've done some of the same things Roxanne has done. And it was like to deeply connect to your childhood parent is just so healing. So I've had good and I've had not so good.
Yeah. And so I've got to say my favorite is, why am I not in your book? I just you probably think this song is about you.
About you. Totally. Yes. I have. And then I have had guys reach out and be like, oh, that's why you actually never went on a date with me. Because a lot of guy friends I would use to give me attention, like text them when I'm having a bad day. So it really got me to clean up a lot of places in my life that I didn't think I needed to clean up.
Yeah. No, that's great. I love the story about your mom, and just that, it's interesting. And something I've learned is when you stop being afraid of your secrets and you stop feeling shame around your secrets, you open up this possibility for, and I know it opens up possibility for negative things, but it also opens up this possibility for this deep bonding experience. And I think writing a book, even if you don't publish it, even if you just write it for yourself and you give it to your family members so that they can see you and understand you better, I think there's that really deep bonding going on. So bravo to you. I just want to say that. Yeah. And bravo to your mother.
I know, right? I was impressed. I mean, I was like, oh my God, that's so beautiful for her to show her authentic self. And that's the whole thing. Secrets and shame kill us. Whether you believe it or not, we all have an ism we go to when we don't want to feel those feelings. And it's like, let's throw open the doors and say, hey, this is what I went through. This is what I'm going through now. And this is the other side I'm on. And you are not alone if you are feeling these ways or doing these things.
Exactly. So while you were writing the book, when all of these emotions came up, when it felt traumatic, overwhelming, what did you do? How did you work through that?
Well, that's the beauty thing. I have a program. I have a self-caring process. I wake up every morning and I go to one of my SLA meetings. I speak all over the world. I have clients I'm of service to all the time. I have, that are, can't go to recovery programs because they're too well known. Then I go to a meeting at night. I hit my knees and I write every night 3 things I'm grateful for. And I talk about this in the last chapter. How do you keep moving forward and finding gratitude? You ask yourself who I wronged today. Then you write those wrongs. What character defect is running my life right now? Is it fear? Is it scarcity? Is it worry? Is it jealousy? Is it, and looking at those things and then going and taking a step back and saying, okay, where do I need to clean up my side of the street in situations? So when I'm feeling that insecure, when it's overwhelming, I then go into myself and do some inner work so that then I can go out into the world and be of service. Because whenever I do it in ego, for me, it's like sniffing a person or drinking a person. Like, I don't have the luxury of not being of service to other people on this planet.
Yeah. So you did actually just stop writing at points going, I need to walk away and do some self-care, find out what I'm grateful for, or, speak to someone or go to a meeting. I can't write right now. I just want to point that out, just because there are people who, I know I've worked with clients who they feel they can't stop. They can't, I have to write this. I have to write this. I'm like, no, you can take days off and you can do self-care and you can go back to a therapist and work through. If something comes up, you can go back to a therapist and work through it. So did you have experiences like that as you were writing?
No, but I have to tell you, not with the first book, but I'm rewriting the second book right now because it's a 4-book series for Roxanne that she goes
Yes.
through this journey of self-love and finding connection in her world. So I'm in rewrites for book 2 right now. And I took a month off because I felt so depleted promoting book 1, doing all of this, and then going and writing, and I wasn't connecting to what I was writing. So I had a conversation with myself, my husband, everybody, and I said, listen, I have to take a month off.
Yeah.
And I only, I'm really gentle with myself. Like it's a process and it's never going to look perfect. And book 1 is not going to look like book 2, how they are written, because it's dealing with different subject matters. Book 2 really deals with sober dating and how to date in a healthy way, especially with online dating and all of that. So every book's a different process, and don't put pressure on yourself that there's no actual timeline, even when you have a timeline. But to get up and just try again the next day, and then write. And even if you think it's crap, I would just write sometimes and I'd be like, this is terrible.
Yes.
But that actually led to other scenes and other ideas. So it's just allowing it to be what it is.
Yes. And if you don't have anything on the page, pardon me, if you don't have anything on the page, no one can help you because we can't read your minds. That's what I'm always telling clients who are like, I don't know what to write. It doesn't matter what you write. Write any old crap you want to write. Anything.
Write anything.
Is great. Because if it's on the page, I can help you with it. It's in your mind. I'm skilled, but I'm not there yet.
And everybody has a story. Yeah. As another sex and love addict has a different experience than me. So everybody can write their own story, and it's different from other people's, and not to compare your story to anybody else's.
Another good point. One thing I remember you telling me when we were talking about this was that a lot of the books seemed very kind of textbooky, right? Like do this and do that, step 1, step 2 here, So tell me a little bit about when you were looking at the market when you were thinking about writing the book and you were looking at the market and what was out there, what was your experience and how did that inspire you to write the book you wrote?
Yeah. All the recovery program books are so clinical and so educational. And it's a lot like doctors' opinions and what they heard from that and how they textbook went through their recovery. And I just feel every time, especially about sex addiction and sex and love addiction, I don't read a lot of drug addict books and those kind of books because I don't have that addiction. But when I was working on them, and they're very, very, very depressing and dark. That's my experience. I haven't read a recovery book that's light and fun and that you can laugh at. So for me as an actress and an entertainer, and also wanting it to be a television show or a series, that we laugh a lot. We laugh a lot in my meetings, like crack up at our ridiculousness and situations and horrible relationships. So there's a lot of laughter. Yes, there's a lot of tears. There's a lot of trauma that comes up, but it's funny, the things that we do. So I wanted to write it really funny and make it light, that anybody, even if they're not a sex and love addict or in toxic relationships, can read this and have a really good time reading it and get a lot of Hollywood gossip that you don't hear about. What it's like to be a working actress, like how tedious it is, not the A-list celebrity, the working actor, that one that auditions constantly, has to change wardrobe, gets paid nothing, pounding the pavement. So I put a lot of Hollywood stories in that people don't know about. So it's like behind the scenes, funny, sad at times, and beautifully, beautifully raw, I believe.
Yeah. The actors I know work 14-hour days, 7 days a week when they're on, right? I mean, people think it's some glamorous life. It's like, I look at the people I know and they're like, yeah, I'm exhausted. And then they do nothing for 4 months. And that's when you can write a book, of course, right?
Yes, in between jobs.
Yeah, so it's good for actors to have knowing what they're getting into when they're getting into acting. It's not this glamorous, I'll sit in a trailer and drink martinis and I'll do 5 minutes of
But
work.
you're even bored in the trailer. When you sit in a trailer in full
14 hours.
makeup and wardrobe for 8 hours before they call you in, you
Yeah.
are bored. There's not you cannot keep doing this on your phone or reading a magazine because you have lines in your head, so you can't like think, so you're like focused. It's very, very boring at times. So
I know when I did my show, and I had, by the time I did it, I was to the point, it's like, look, if you're going to judge me by my family's behavior, whatever. But I mean, you make a good point when you talk about you've had DMs and there's been, some really negative stuff. So I really want to talk about that. I have not had, from my family secret, I have not had that much negative around it. And so if somebody's out there and they're thinking about writing a book and there's a family secret or a personal secret and they're worried about that negative, that negativity around it, how have you been protecting yourself from that? How do you look after yourself once the book's out so that you can, write that second book and do the show and feel safe in your own home, when they're, what
coming
I mean?
at you.
When you feel like people are coming at you, how do you keep yourself safe?
Well, I think the one thing that really helped me is I am an actor and that I do get bad reviews and things have come out about movies. So it's like, I'm like, it bounces off me, but this is more personal. So with this situation, especially in recovery and a woman in sex and love addiction, there's so much stigma and shame. The number one thing for me was I did the work to heal before I put it out in the world. I didn't just go out into the world and say, hey, I'm a sex and love addict, in withdrawal, 2 years, crying every day, going to therapy twice a week, doing my step work, like crying in my room, like, with the pain that was coming up. So I healed. I did all my healing, real healing before it came out. So once it came out, you can have your opinion about me. You can have your thoughts of my journey, but you can't take away my healing. So there's something when people attack me for something they don't completely understand, or I had someone the other day, a book reviewer, only read the first 3 chapters and she's like, I don't like this person. And I said, you're not going to like her after the first 3 chapters. She's in her addiction. You got to get to the 4th, the 5th, the 6th chapter where the transformation occurs. And I said, I'm really bummed you didn't give it that shot, but I guess that's your right to do. Thank you for trying. But it's like, I can't, not everybody's going to like me, and that's okay. Not everybody's going to agree with the things I've been through and why I did the things I did to survive in this world. And that's okay. And I have to allow people to have their opinion, and it doesn't affect me.
That's good advice. Really, really good advice. So, and you also tell other people's stories on your podcast, and I believe it's an Apple Podcast, Secret Life on Apple Podcast.
Yes.
So for everyone, I've put the link in the description. So if you like that, Hollywood scandal, although my guess is you are not coming at it from that, scandal, you are having real conversations about breaking down secrets and dealing with trauma. So do you want to tell us just a little bit about the show?
Yeah, it's called Secret Life. And it's about, my whole concept is tell me your secrets and I'll tell you mine. We've released 87 episodes so far. Most of our guests are anonymous. They're all over the world, all walks of life, all gender, all sexual orientation, age group, everything you can imagine. And I wanted to give a space to people to come tell their secrets, whether they're a known Hollywood person or, Joe Schmo down the street. It didn't matter. Your secret was important. What you went through the past, or you're still going through it now, and how you're moving through it and where you are. So it's a 30-minute show, and we talk about the secret in a way where it's like, hey, me too. You tell me you felt broken. I felt broken. I get that. So it's not about me or the guest. It's about the listener that doesn't have a voice. Because I kid you not, the moment I wrote the HuffPost article before the book came out, it was a lead up to the book. That last little bit of stigma and shame just evaporated. So I wanted to give people the chance to feel that as well. And I have to tell you, every guest that has come on has had a transformation after their episode. I mean, I can't even tell you. I mean, my first anonymous guest shot herself in the chest with a shotgun. It's Kristen's episode 7. And she walks me through why she shot herself in the chest with a shotgun, because she couldn't reach perfectionism. And so it's just these beautiful stories of hardship, and then some really funny secrets, like lying on a resume, or like stealing food from Jeff Bezos at Whole Foods, you know, all these funny secrets as well. So it's really fun ones and really, really dark ones. And I'm really proud of our show. It's killing it. And it's like helping so many people. And my husband and I produce it, and we do it to be of service to other people. We're both in recovery, and we believe that our ripple effect before we got sober, he's 33 years sober in AA. We were like takers, take, you know? And now we're giving back, and our ripple effect is actually helping people. And we get to hear every day how it helps people. So I'm very honored by the podcast.
Yes. And I think it's lovely that you two have been together for so long and worked through things. I mean, that's a relationship, right? Not giving up and like really, you know, working through things. This has nothing to do with the show, but I just wanted to say that because I think it's, you know, whenever you see someone who's worked through and not run away from that relationship, I think that's beautiful. Like that's a beautiful thing. Yeah. So has the book bug bit you? Are you writing? You're writing another one? You're writing a 4th series? Did you say? Tell us a little bit more about where you're going with this.
Yeah. So book 2 is really focused on Roxanne's sober dating in Hollywood and how gnarly that is. You know, sober dating dating for anybody is difficult right now. I believe every single person I talk to that's dating is like, it's horrific. And even the episode of Secret Life right now is about online dating and how horrible it is, right? The one we just released. So we, you know, that book's about sober dating. And then the next one is about, you know, finding a healthy relationship, how Roxanne does that. So it was a 3-book part. And then of course my husband, who he's a wonderful man, was like, oh, there's actually a 4th book. And he like spelled it out for me. And I was like, oh my God, there's a 4th book. Why don't you leave me alone? So yeah, it's a 4-book series.
Yeah. And now you're a writer, right? So you're like, I don't write. I'm not a writer, but you are. Now you're a writer. I just want to point that out. So many people come to me, I'm writing a book, but I'm not an author. It's like, well, yes, you are, right? If you're writing a book, you're an author. You are in the process of becoming a published author. You may not be a published author yet, but you are an author because you are writing a book. I just want to throw that out there for people. So where can people get a hold of you? Where's the best place?
So the best place I always answer my messages is Instagram at the Brianne Davis. You know, sometimes I go to TikTok, you know, that's the Brianne Davis, but Instagram's the one I'm on the most. Or you can email me at secretlifepodcast@icloud.com if you want to be on the show. And if you want, you know, we have merchandise, we have all the episodes, the book, autographed copies of the book. You can go to secretlifenovel.com that you put up. But yeah, if you have any questions about this addiction, if anything I said resonated, please reach out. I will send you information, Zoom links to get help or to get your friend help or your parents help or whoever is struggling in toxic relationships or behavior.
And I will make sure all of that is in the description. And just saying, if you are going to message Brianne from this show, you better be nice. I'm just saying, you better be nice.
Okay. Yeah.
Brianne, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciated you being open and honest and just giving us a look into that journey of not only sex addiction, but writing about secrets and protecting yourself and looking after yourself and dealing with scandal that might come from it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me and letting me share my journey with everybody. Thank you.
We'll see everyone next Thursday for our next live.